When Jimmy Kimmel stepped onto the stage on the night of September 15th, 2025, the world expected humor, perhaps satire, perhaps the familiar blend of late-night commentary that had become his trademark. What followed instead ignited outrage across conservative circles and sent shockwaves through the broadcasting industry. Kimmel's words were sharp, accusatory, and preemptively judgmental. In discussing the tragic assassination of conservative activist Charlie Kirk, Kimmel suggested that conservatives were trying to manipulate public perception, portraying the alleged shooter as left-wing while he may have been otherwise. These claims were made before the release of official information about the suspect, Tyler Robinson, and they immediately drew accusations of misinformation and reckless commentary. From the very first moment, Kimmel's monologue set the stage for a brewing storm. Conservative audiences, already wary of liberal late-night hosts, reacted with disbelief and indignation. Many saw his remarks not as satire, not as commentary, but as a deliberate attempt to misrepresent reality and weaponize tragedy for political effect. Across social media, commentary exploded. Tweets, posts, and videos circulated within minutes, denouncing Kimmel's words as irresponsible and incendiary. Public figures, pundits, and ordinary citizens alike called out the host for what they considered a misuse of his platform, one that could deepen division and erode trust in public discourse. The backlash was swift and concrete. Nexstar Media Group, which operates 23 ABC-affiliated stations, took decisive action, announcing that it would preempt Jimmy Kimmel Live indefinitely. Andrew Alford, president of Nexstar's broadcasting division, made it clear that Kimmel's comments were offensive and insensitive at a critical time in our national political discourse. The decision was significant, not only because Nexstar is a major broadcaster, but because it reflected a willingness to stand against what was widely seen as a dangerous overstep. Soon after, ABC itself confirmed the indefinite suspension of the show. While the network spokesperson declined to provide detailed reasoning, the move was interpreted by many as tacit acknowledgement that Kimmel had crossed a line. The controversy escalated further when FCC Chairman Brendan Carr publicly criticized the remarks. Appearing on The Benny Show podcast, Carr described Kimmel's commentary as some of the sickest conduct possible and warned that regulatory action could follow if ABC and Disney failed to address the issue responsibly. His statement underscored the seriousness of the situation. A late-night host's words were no longer confined to entertainment. They had become matters of potential national scrutiny. Carr's intervention highlighted concerns about misinformation, public accountability, and the blurred lines between satire and political commentary. The political reaction was equally decisive. President Donald Trump praised ABC's suspension, calling it a rare moment of accountability in liberal media circles. Conservative commentators condemned Kimmel's remarks as malicious and reckless, arguing that his statements were not only factually unsubstantiated, but morally irresponsible. Meanwhile, some Democratic figures and liberal media personalities cautioned against the suspension, framing it as a potential threat to free speech and creative expression. However, the overwhelming consensus within conservative communities was clear. Kimmel had abused his platform, and swift corrective action was necessary to protect public discourse. Beyond the immediate reactions, the incident opened a larger conversation about the role of late-night hosts in shaping political narratives. Historically, comedians have provided cultural commentary through humor, often exaggerating or mocking societal trends. Yet Kimmel's remarks were widely interpreted as moving beyond exaggeration into accusation, suggesting a deliberate mischaracterization of facts for political effect. Critics argued that this shift undermines trust, as audiences increasingly struggle to separate comedic hyperbole from purportedly factual claims. In this sense, the controversy surrounding Kimmel became a case study in the increasing politicization of entertainment, where the distinction between humor and political messaging is perilously thin. The suspension also raised questions about corporate responsibility in media. ABC, under the ownership of Disney, found itself in a difficult position. Allowing Kimmel's commentary to continue unchecked could have alienated large segments of the viewing public, particularly those who rely on ABC-affiliated stations for local news and entertainment. Yet the suspension exposed a tension within corporate media, balancing editorial independence and freedom of expression with accountability and public perception. Nexstar's proactive stance exemplified one approach, prioritizing audience trust and responsible broadcasting over loyalty to a popular host. As public debate intensified, social media became the primary arena for discussion. Conservatives pointed to Kimmel's monologue as an example of liberal media bias, arguing that it exemplified a broader pattern of misrepresentation and selective outrage. Tweets circulated dissecting his remarks, highlighting inconsistencies, and questioning the timing of his statements relative to the release of verified information about the shooter. This digital dialogue was not confined to political commentators. Ordinary citizens expressed concern that the normalization of such commentary could further erode societal trust, particularly at a time when political polarization is at an all-time high. Meanwhile, liberal commentators emphasized the role of satire in political discourse, framing Kimmel's remarks as part of a long tradition of comedians critiquing public figures and institutions. They argued that the host's intent was to provoke reflection and conversation, not to misinform. Yet even within this defense there was acknowledgement that the monologue had crossed boundaries, demonstrating the delicate balance between creative expression and responsible public communication. The incident highlighted the challenge faced by media personalities: how to maintain authenticity and humor without exploiting tragedy or spreading potential misinformation. Amid this whirlwind, the story of Tyler Robinson and Charlie Kirk remained central. Kirk, a prominent conservative activist and founder of Turning Point USA, was mourned widely within his community. Robinson, the alleged perpetrator, became the subject of intense scrutiny, with political affiliations and motives examined by both media and public alike. Kimmel's comments, however, risked preempting these investigations, framing the narrative in a way that critics argued was both premature and unfair. By speculating about political motivations before facts were confirmed, the host inadvertently contributed to the polarization of an already charged situation. The consequences of this controversy extend beyond a single show or host. They speak to the broader media environment in which audiences increasingly rely on entertainment platforms for news and commentary. When popular figures like Kimmel blend humor with political critique, the potential impact is magnified. Words are no longer confined to the studio, they ripple across social networks, shaping perceptions and influencing public debate. This incident exemplifies the responsibility that comes with such influence. Hosts, networks, and media corporations must consider the broader effects of their commentary, particularly in matters of national significance. In many ways, the Kimmel controversy illustrates a turning point in late-night television. Once primarily a source of entertainment, these programs have evolved into influential platforms for political discourse. Hosts are no longer simply commentators on pop culture. They are arbiters of public sentiment, wielding significant sway over how events are interpreted by millions of viewers. While this evolution has created opportunities for meaningful commentary, it has also introduced risks, particularly when satire intersects with sensitive political events. Kimmel's monologue became a flashpoint, revealing the potential hazards of unrestrained commentary in a politically polarized climate. Even within the industry, the repercussions were felt immediately. Producers, advertisers, and corporate stakeholders reassessed their relationships with late-night content. Decisions about sponsorships, time slots, and program continuity were influenced by the public backlash. Networks recognized that audiences are no longer passive consumers. They are active participants in shaping media narratives, capable of influencing corporate decisions through both market pressure and public opinion. In this context, Nexstar's swift decision to preempt the show demonstrates the power of audience accountability and corporate responsibility. At the heart of the debate is a fundamental question: where should the line be drawn between entertainment, commentary, and accountability? Kimmel's remarks, while framed as humor, were interpreted by many as crossing into irresponsible political commentary. The suspension of Jimmy Kimmel Live was thus both a punitive and corrective measure, reinforcing the principle that public figures must exercise care in shaping narratives about real-world events. The incident serves as a reminder that satire does not exist in isolation, it exists within a social and political context, and hosts must remain aware of the implications of their words. As the narrative unfolded, the role of government oversight became increasingly salient. The FCC's statements regarding potential regulatory action underscore the seriousness with which authorities view the dissemination of information on broadcast platforms. While the agency's involvement has sparked debate about free speech and potential overreach, it also highlights a critical dimension of accountability. The public has a right to expect that major networks maintain standards of accuracy and responsibility, even when the content is presented as entertainment. Public dialogue surrounding the incident has continued unabated. Across social media, conservative voices have emphasized the need for accountability, portraying the suspension as a victory for truth and a pushback against biased media narratives. Liberal commentators continue to frame the discussion in terms of creative freedom and the challenges of satire, yet even they acknowledge the risks inherent in blending humor with commentary on sensitive political events. The tension between these perspectives reflects broader societal debates about media ethics, political polarization, and the influence of entertainment on public perception. Throughout the controversy, several key lessons emerge. First, media figures hold significant power to shape public discourse, and with that power comes responsibility. Second, audiences are increasingly vigilant, capable of influencing corporate and creative decisions through collective response. Third, the line between comedy and commentary is fluid, and navigating it requires constant awareness of context, timing, and potential impact. Kimmel's monologue in this light serves as a cautionary tale about the consequences of misjudging these factors. The story also underscores the changing nature of accountability in modern media. Whereas in the past, criticism of public figures might have been confined to editorials or letters to the network, today, social media amplifies public response in real time. Networks, hosts, and sponsors must navigate this environment carefully, understanding that audience reaction can have immediate financial, reputational, and regulatory consequences.
Nextstar's swift decision to preempt the show demonstrates the power of corporate entities to respond to public sentiment and uphold standards of responsible broadcasting. As the suspension continues, the long-term implications for late-night television and media commentary remain uncertain. Will networks adopt stricter editorial oversight for politically charged content? Will hosts exercise greater caution in addressing sensitive events? How will audiences adjust to the evolving expectations of accountability in entertainment? These questions are central to understanding the significance of the Kimmel controversy and its place in the broader media landscape. Ultimately, the events surrounding Jimmy Kimmel's monologue, the suspension of his show, and the subsequent political and public reaction highlight the intricate interplay between media, politics, and public opinion. They demonstrate the profound impact that words can have when delivered from a platform with national reach, and they illustrate the complex responsibilities that accompany such visibility. As society continues to grapple with questions of media ethics, polarization, and accountability, the Kimmel incident stands as a potent example of the stakes involved when entertainment intersects with politics.